How's it going, everybody? It's a beautiful sunny day out here in Portland, and step outside for a minute and talk about logic. What is logic? I'm going to try to do this video relatively quick because I did one before this, and as happens so often, I ran out of space, so I was sitting there talking to a blank camera. Then I realized in the end I'd said logic too many times, so logic. I've always been a big fan of reason, rationality, and logic, and at the same time had an open mind to realize that some things cannot be proven logically. And logic has many different terms that go along with it, companion words, as well as many different systems. You know, it's like a three-part system of logic, the Aristotelian logic. The idea is that logic is supposed to help us to rationalize situations to figure out what is the best outcome or what is the most likely answer to something. Rational thinking involves not only questioning what we've always known, or always thought we known, rather, but the things that we're learning as we go as well, to be able to pick through the stuff. And some people call it cherry picking, and sometimes it can be. I consider it selecting, the components which are most important to be logical about. So without getting too blah blah into it, the other day I watched Star Trek for the first time, and I was never into the show. I've seen the show, of course, and I've seen the movies on and off, but never actually sat down and watched a complete movie. So I sat down and watched part 1, and then part 2, 3, 4, and 5 over a couple days, and I was glad that I'd never seen them because I was able to see it with a clean mind, a 40-year-old mind, understanding the symbols, the archetypes behind it. And the part that really got me was Spock. You know, the Vulcans, they're logical. And everybody loves Spock, you know, because he's always so logical, but at the same time, he has no human emotions. So without those human emotions, it allows him to become more logical, to be more logical. But the point I'm going to make about Star Trek is that if you use Spock as a determining factor of what is logical or how to be logical, you can see clearly the metaphors behind what being too logical does to you. It makes you indifferent and not emotional in any way, which some people see as a strength. You know, don't be emotional, be strong. But emotion is a major part of who we are. It's everything about who we are. When you see Spock on his home planet or with other Vulcans, they have these very mundane, drawn-out, boring ceremonies with no emotion shown that really just says, you know, what is life all about on a planet where there's no emotion and only logic? And you can see so clearly that that is not human. I mean, humans are such emotional creatures. So we need logic to sort through the nonsense, but we also need to keep our minds open to the fact that logic doesn't always explain everything. I did have an example, and I'm hoping this one works somewhat. Let's say that a man gets cancer, and he goes to his doctor, and his doctor says, all right, well, you have a week to live. Your best thing would be to go home, make amends, say goodbye to your family, get your affairs in order. So the man goes home. He starts to do the logical thing, which is prepare to die. And then he reads an article about somebody who says that through intention, a person can actually cure themselves of cancer. And he goes on to read articles about people who have used placebo drugs, but thinking that they work. And the people have gone into remission. I mean, there are several stories like this, that the mind over matter, the mind over the body. So the person reads this, and then he has to decide, is this logical? My doctor tells me that it's logical to just get my affairs in order, prepare to die, and here's this other side of me saying to have hope and intend and do something illogical, but that actually seems logical only through the things we're beginning to learn, which is that the mind and intention can override sickness and ailments, that people really can heal themselves much faster through intention. So if you brought this up 50 years ago and told a doctor, hey, I'm going to heal myself through intention, they'd laugh at you. If you did it today, they're more likely to say, oh, there's a possibility there. Or through food, let's say, which is our medicine. And the point I'm trying to make here is that 1,000 years ago, if you told someone that you can heal through prayer or through intention, many would agree with you. Then as the Industrial Revolution happened, we started to rely more on our machinery and stopped relying on our own minds so much, so it became irrational to think that you had any control over your environment. But then today, in the 21st century, we're starting to say, oh, well, maybe there is something to that. So my point of saying all this is that what is logical is dependent upon the environment and what humans perceive to be true. So you can't keep consistent logic throughout history. There's no page, this is what's logical. You could get down to the rhetorics, the very specifics of logic, get down into the threefold methods of using logic, or all the different types of logic. And you can get into the academics of it and learn and study. I find all that to be fodder, mostly. Because then logic just becomes a proposition. It's like rather than an idea, it becomes a thing. Logic is an idea to me, I guess. The idea that by using your rational mind, you can logically derive conclusions which can help you. But at the same time, if your mind isn't prepared for that logic, or rather, if you don't know how to organize what's around you, you can't make a logical answer. It's just like if a mathematician is given all the parts of a puzzle, he can put it all together and say this is the answer. But a person who doesn't understand that math, it's just, he can't logically do anything with it. So logic really is subjective. And to a degree, okay? There's a logic that would tell me that, trees are green, that the leaves on that tree are green, but I also know that, as we've learned, that light is nothing more than the reflection of photons off of, or I should say, color is nothing more than the reflection of photons off of the atom, which reflect back particular colors. And only we really see that. Animals don't. Insects see it differently. Birds see it differently. So, logically, I would say a tree is green, but that's only through human perception. Now, logic doesn't cover that. That's not, So I guess what I'm getting at is that society is trying to tell us that certain things aren't logical and aren't worth thinking about. Religion or beliefs is one of those, where if you believe in a certain thing, or if you believe in some ancient, story about something that may have happened, it doesn't seem logical unless you have some sort of evidence. An example is one of my subs who sent me a link to a video where they said that Mars was destroyed by a nuclear war. And I respectfully said I disagree because, logic tells me that the evidence presented isn't worthy. And it said in the video that it was through channeling and through ancient texts. But what I have to do is, if I didn't have the awareness I did about, let's say, Mars and ancient cultures, which is limited in scope, but still have some, then I couldn't form a logical conclusion to that or answer, because I'd have to learn about it first. So my point, I guess, society at large cannot be logical as a group. Only the individual can determine that, and it's very subjective. And it's based upon, like a scientific approach is logical. Hoping and dreaming and just wishing for the best doesn't seem logical. But it can be. It is. I guess I just better end this now, because I could go on and on without really making any points, but logic is determined strongly by what we know or think we know and how much we're allowing ourselves to open our minds. So, blah, 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 and I hope you all have a great day.